A few years ago, my girlfriend and I embarked on a road trip across the U.S. This journey was meant to be incredibly significant and special because it was where I planned to propose to my now wife. Unfortunately, that's not the only reason the trip remains etched in my memory. One of the happiest memories of my life is also tainted by an event that nearly cost both of us our lives. This is my first attempt at writing this story down, rather than just recounting it verbally, and probably my first time writing anything since high school. So please excuse any literary shortcomings. For a bit of backstory, I own a truck with a large cargo bed, more than spacious enough for us to comfortably lie on an air mattress in the back. We spent days hiking across the country, sleeping in designated areas in the bed of my truck. I'd camped a few times as a kid with my family and always detested setting up tents and sleeping on the hard ground. Sleeping in the comfort of my truck felt like a hybrid version of camping, and I was all for it. We both love the outdoors, but we'd be the first to admit we're not the most rugged nature enthusiasts. Every night of the trip was beautiful. We were incredibly lucky with the weather. We'd fall asleep staring at the sky, and let me tell you, if you've never gazed at the stars in the wilderness, you absolutely must. One of the few downsides of the trip was that my girlfriend was the lightest of light sleepers. Every sound woke her up. Being in nature meant every gust of wind, every bird call, every rustling tree would rouse her. I always offered her something to help her sleep, but she'd always refuse, claiming it would make her groggy, apparently more groggy than being half awake all night. But it wasn't just her light sleeping that kept her awake on this trip. She has a crippling fear of bears, ever since a coworker told her about her family being attacked by bears on a camping trip. My girlfriend had been on high alert. Every noise she heard, she assumed was a bear. Now, with the backstory out of the way, I'll share what was almost the last night on Earth for my girlfriend and me. About 3/4 of the way through the trip, I proposed, and she said yes. It was one of the happiest days of my life. With the stress of proposing behind me, I slept like a baby that night. The next morning, she was the most tired she'd been on the entire trip. When I asked her if she was scared of the noises, she paused, not answering right away, which was unusual for her. She then told me she woke up in the middle of the night, convinced she heard someone walking outside the truck. She stayed lying down, so she didn't see anyone, but she was certain someone was walking just outside the truck bed. Every time she tried to sleep, she heard walking sounds, and she was sure she even heard mumbling or talking at some point. I believed her, or rather, I believed that's what she thought she heard. I wasn't dismissive, but I was pretty sure we weren't being stalked. Before we left that morning, she gasped outside the truck. When I ran over, she pointed out what looked like a small footprint in the dirt next to the truck. I was probably being ignorant, but I thought it was a stretch to call it a footprint. I asked if it could have been her footprint, and she instantly protested. I didn't argue with her, sensing she was still freaked out. I thoroughly checked my truck before we left, confirming we didn't have a secret passenger. I did find my planner open on the back seat, on the page listing our stops each night, but I didn't think anything of it. I figured she was looking at it earlier, or I might have left it there. I put it back in my bag, we got ready, and hit the road. It took her a while to shake off her morning fog, but after a large coffee, she was back to herself and didn't mention the previous night again. We spent the next day hiking through the mountains, being obnoxiously in love. As night approached, we set up our little camp nook in the truck bed. I could tell she was more uneasy tonight than any other night. It wasn't bears that were freaking her out. It was the possibility of another person outside the truck. I told her we could sleep inside the locked truck or even find a hotel if she wanted, but she insisted we stay in the truck bed, since it was our last night in the wilderness. I decided to stay awake that night and make sure she fell asleep. It took her a while, but she finally drifted off around midnight. I even dug out my old portable DVD player from high school and put on an old season of Family Guy, just to get her mind off the unsettling silence of the night. The once beautiful silence was now something she feared, though she'd never admit it. I shut off the DVD and rolled over, trying to get some sleep. Before I even dozed off, I thought I heard something outside my truck. My first thought was a baby bear, as it sounded bigger than a raccoon or coyote. I knew it was imperative not to wake her and cause alarm. Slowly and quietly, I crawled to the wall of the truck bed and peered over the edge. I couldn't believe my eyes. Someone was walking around the front of the truck, a smaller figure with a hood on, mumbling something to themselves. I quickly ducked back into the truck bed since they didn't see me, as they were walking in the opposite direction. I debated waking her up, but I thought it would make too much noise, and my main goal was to be as silent as possible. I considered trying to tackle the walking person, as they looked much smaller than me, but I didn't know if they had a weapon or if someone else was hiding nearby, waiting to jump me. Keeping my fiancé safe was my #1 priority. I listened intently as the figure walked outside. I could tell they circled the truck, walking by the foot of the truck bed. I angled my head to get a better look. I couldn't see her face, but I could tell it was a woman. I saw blonde hair peeking out from under the hood, and I could clearly hear mumbling at this point. The voice was unmistakably female. I planned to jump out and confront the woman the next time she passed in front of the truck bed. I was somewhat relieved that my fiancé was asleep through all this. I waited several seconds, but she never made her way back to the truck bed. I leaned over the edge of the truck again and didn't see her on my side or the front. That meant she either fled into the woods or was on the other side of the truck where I couldn't see. As fast as I could, I took out my cell phone and typed into my notes, "Don't make a sound. Someone is outside the truck. I'll distract them. Take the keys, start the truck, and I'll jump back into the bed." I quietly woke up my fiancé, making sure the first thing she saw was me holding my finger to my mouth, signaling silence as I held up the phone for her to read. As quietly as I could, I handed her the keys. I could tell she was confused and terrified, but thankfully she didn't make a sound. I grabbed my pocket knife and jumped outside the truck, trying to scare the intruder away, but nobody was there. I lowered my guard for a second, and then I heard my fiancé yell to me, asking if everything was okay. Just as I was about to answer, I felt an intense pain in my ankle. The woman was hiding under the truck, and while I was standing there, she smashed my ankle with a thick tree branch. I stumbled to the ground, and as I was picking myself up, she crawled from underneath the truck, screaming erratically, and threw the thick branch at me. I put my arms up in defense, and she pulled out what I think was a kitchen knife of some kind, swinging it wildly. I continued backing away from her insane movements. Once I felt we were far enough from the truck, I shouted to my fiancé to start the truck. Now! She jumped from the side of the truck bed and got to the door. The woman immediately diverted her attention and started running for my fiancé. We were far enough away that my fiancé was able to start the truck, and she drove off, leaving a massive cloud of dust. The woman started to scream, and it almost sounded like she was crying. My fiancé drove a few feet before turning around and driving straight in the direction of this insane woman. The woman dove out of the way. That's when I finally saw her face. It was my ex-girlfriend. She had some problems when we were younger, but the last I knew, she was doing well. I couldn't believe it. Our breakup was not good. I even had to involve the law at one point because she would stalk around the outside of my house in the middle of the night, claiming her only crime was still being in love with me. This was also 6 years ago at that point. It wasn't like this was a fresh wound. Once her hood was off, she fell to her knees, and I could see her crying. The usual version of myself would have gone over to make sure she was okay, but not anymore. This woman was clearly not well, and I was not going to take any chances. My fiancé drove by me, and I had more than enough time to open the passenger side door and get in. My ex didn't even try to chase us. We just kept driving. As soon as I got service, I called the police and reported everything. Most surprisingly, she eventually just went home a few days later, and the police confronted her. To her credit, she didn't deny anything. She even told the police she wanted to be taken in because she wasn't well. She claimed she wanted to kill my fiancé. When they asked if she wanted to harm me, she apparently just cried. The last update I received about her was that she was in some type of institution, but I'm not sure for how long. It's been a few years, and nothing of note has happened since. I rarely think about that night, but whenever I hear stories like this, I'm reminded of that horrible experience, and it makes me wonder if I'll ever see her again. My wife looks her up on Facebook and other social media platforms all the time, but as of the time of writing this, she's still MIA, and I hope she remains that way to me for the rest of my life. In moments of fear, uncertainty, or danger, reciting Ayatul Kursi acts as a powerful shield. It reminds us that Allah is the ultimate protector over all things. Recite it after every prayer, before sleeping, and when leaving home. No harm can touch you when Allah's protection surrounds you.